The story unfolds primarily over the course of a single night inside a high-rise apartment in Barcelona. Felix has received a tip that the prosecution has found a surprise witness that could ruin Adrian's case. Virginia arrives at Adrian's apartment early, letting him know they have exactly 180 minutes to parse through every single detail of his story to patch up the holes. The central mystery revolves around what happened in room 715 of a remote hotel in Bierge. Adrian was found inside the locked room with the dead body of his mistress, Laura Vidal. The room was locked from the inside and there was no trace of anyone else escaping. Adrian claims an invisible guest attacked him, knocked him unconscious, and murdered Laura. Virginia warns Adrian that his current defense is impossible for a jury to believe. To save him, she demands the absolute, unfiltered truth. Adrian begins by explaining his affair with Laura. They had been seeing each other secretly for months. On a fateful Sunday, they met at a secluded cabin. Realizing they were running late to return to their normal lives in Barcelona, Adrian took a shortcut through a dense, foggy mountain road. While driving and arguing about ending their affair, a deer suddenly leapt into the path of Adrian's BMW. He swerved violently. They survived unharmed, but their car collided with an oncoming small sedan. When Adrian checked on the other vehicle, he found the driver, a young man named Daniel Garrido, dead. Laura panicked, realizing that the accident would expose their affair, ruin Adrian's business empire, and destroy Laura's marriage. She convinced Adrian not to call the police. While trying to figure out what to do, another car approached. Laura quickly posed next to the damaged BMW, making it look like a minor fender bender between her and Adrian, hiding Daniel's car behind them. The passing driver paused, asked if they needed help, and eventually drove off, but not before noticing Laura's anxious behavior. To get rid of the evidence, Laura insisted they split up. Adrian would put Daniel's body in the trunk of Daniel's car, drive it to a deep, remote lake nearby, and sink it. Laura would stay behind with the BMW and wait for a tow truck. While Adrian drove Daniel's car to the lake, Laura faced her own nightmare. The BMW wouldn't start. As she waited in distress, an older, friendly man named Tomás Garrido, he offered to tow the BMW back to his house to fix it, revealing that he used to work as an engineer for BlackBerry. Laura reluctantly agreed. At Tomás's home, she met his wife, Elva Garrido. While talking to them, Laura noticed family photos on the wall and suffered a massive shock. Tomás and Elva were Daniel Garrido's parents. During the visit, Daniel's phone rang from inside Laura's pocket. She had accidentally picked it up during the chaos of the crash. Laura slipped the phone into the Garrido's living room couch cushions before leaving in the newly repaired BMW. Adrian successfully pushed Daniel's car into the lake, watching it sink completely. When he reunited with Laura, she told him about the terrifying coincidence with the Garrido family. They immediately decided to cut all ties, sell the BMW to a scrapyard, and pretend they were never in that part of the country. However, Daniel was reported missing. The police eventually traced the phone signal to the Garrido home, making it look like Daniel ran away with stolen money from the bank where he worked. Adrian used his massive wealth and his lawyer, Felix, to fabricate alibis, wipe his name from police records, and frame the missing Daniel for embezzlement to draw suspicion away from the accident. Months passed. Adrian thought he was safe until both he and Laura received a series of blackmail messages. An anonymous blackmailer demanded 100,000 euros in exchange for keeping quiet about Daniel's death. The instructions led them to the isolated hotel in Bierge. According to Adrian's initial story to Virginia, they arrived at the hotel and waited in room 715. Realizing it was a trap, Adrian wanted to flee, but as they opened the door, someone attacked him from behind, knocking him out cold. When he woke up, Laura was dead on the floor, covered in euros, and the police were banging on the door. Virginia Goodman listens to this narrative with deep skepticism. She tells Adrian that his story lacks a coherent antagonist. If the blackmailer wanted money, why leave the 100,000 euros scattered over Laura's corpse? Why frame Adrian instead of just taking the cash? Virginia then presents her own theory based on lateral thinking. Virginia reimagines the timeline to show how a jury would perceive it if they discovered the truth. In this version, Virginia claims that Laura was overwhelmed with guilt following the accident, and she wanted to confess everything to the police. To stop her from ruining his life, Adrian murdered Laura in that hotel room and invented the invisible guest to escape a murder charge. To pressure Adrian into admitting this, Virginia reveals a crucial piece of news. Virginia tells Adrian that if he wants her to discredit this witness, he must tell her exactly where he hid Daniel Garrido's car. Anxious and feeling the clock ticking down, Adrian finally breaks. He confesses to a horrifying detail that changes everything. When he was pushing Daniel's car into the lake, right before it sank beneath the surface, he heard a noise from the trunk. Daniel was still alive. Instead of opening the trunk to save the young man, Adrian consciously chose to let the car sink, murdering Daniel to protect his own freedom. Virginia is visibly shaken by this admission but maintains her composure. She uses this confession to construct the final, definitive narrative that will save him in court. They will frame Tomas Garrido for Laura's murder. Virginia explains that Tomas, an electronics expert, could have easily tracked them down, infiltrated the hotel, bypassed the window security, killed Laura out of revenge for his son, and left Adrian to take the fall. To make this narrative work in front of a judge, Virginia needs Adrian to mark the exact coordinates of the lake on a map. Adrian complies. With the map in hand and Adrian's full recorded confession on her tape recorder, Virginia looks at her watch. She notes that the 180 minutes are up. She tells Adrian she needs to step out for a breath of fresh air and to meet Felix, who is arriving shortly. As soon as Virginia leaves the apartment, Adrian looks down at his fountain pen. It is leaking ink. He opens the casing and realizes it contains a miniature radio transmitter that has been scrambling his own apartment's security feeds and broadcasting his voice. He looks across the street to the building opposite his apartment. Through a window, he sees a man and a woman. The man is Tomas Garrido. The woman next to him begins peeling off her face, a highly sophisticated theatrical prosthetic mask, wig, and voice modulator. The real Virginia Goodman knocks on Adrian's front door, apologizing for being a few minutes late. The woman who had spent the last 3 hours interrogating him was Elva Garrido, Daniel's mother and a former theater actress. Together with her husband, she successfully manipulated Adrian into confessing to both the murder of their son and the murder of Laura Vidal, capturing the entire confession on tape while the real police close in. If you love the explanation, like and subscribe for more of these thrill movies breakdowns.